the GP tent was buzzing with laughter, the kind that rolls through a group of Marines who had been living on adrenaline and exhaustion for weeks. But everything stopped the moment an old man stepped inside. Calm, quiet, carrying nothing but age and mystery on his shoulders. A young Marine smirked and joked, "Hey, old-timer, what's your rank?" And tent erupted, until the old man answered. What he said didn't just silence the Marines, it changed the way they looked at service, sacrifice, and honor forever. The midday heat pressed against the canvas of the GP tent as Marines unpacked gear, cleaned weapons, and tried to squeeze a moment of rest between missions. Laughter echoed across the bunks, an attempt to push back the tension that never truly left a forward operating area. Then the flap of the tent opened. A man who clearly didn't belong walked in. He was in his late 70s, maybe early 80s, dressed in simple civilian clothes, a crisp blue polo, khaki pants, and worn leather shoes. His posture was straight despite age, and his eyes were sharp. Too sharp for someone who should have been retired on a quiet porch somewhere. The Marines looked up, confused. "Can we help you, sir?" one asked. The old man didn't answer. He simply scanned the room like he'd walked into a memory, absorbing the layout, the cots, the footlockers, the sand-covered boots lined against the tent walls. Corporal Hayes, the loudest Marine in the platoon and proud owner of the squad's worst sense of timing, leaned back on his bunk with a grin. "Sir, you must have taken a wrong turn," Hayes joked. "You lookin' for the VA meeting? This here is Marine country." Laughter broke out. The old man didn't react, not a smile, not a frown, just patience. Hayes stood and walked closer, hands on his hips. "Okay, seriously. What's your rank, old man?" This time the laughter was louder, half teasing, half curious. But the silence that followed wasn't from the old man. It was from Staff Sergeant Miller. His face had gone pale. His eyes were locked on a small pin the old man wore on his collar, something the others hadn't noticed. A gold trident. Miller swallowed. "Corporal, stand down." Hayes blinked, confused. "What? He's just..." "Corporal, I said stand down." The room stiffened. The tone alone told everyone they were in the presence of someone dangerous or legendary. Finally, the old man spoke. "My rank," he said gently. "Son, I retired before your sergeant here was even born." He reached into his wallet and pulled out an ID. Worn, faded, but unmistakable. The Marines leaned closer. And then, every voice died. Every chest tightened. Every joke evaporated. Because the name on that ID belonged to a man the corps talked about in training halls, stories whispered by instructors who usually never believed in legends. The old man was one of them. A pioneer. A combat veteran whose missions were still classified. A Marine whose service record had impacted generations. Corporal Hayes' mouth dropped slightly. "I didn't know." The old man placed a firm hand on Hayes' shoulder, not angry, but steady. "That's because you weren't supposed to?" Then, with a small smile that carried decades of pain and pride, he added, "But you boys remind me why we did it." Once the shock faded, the Marines gathered around him, instinctively forming a circle like students around a long-lost teacher. The old man sat on the edge of a cot, moving slowly, carefully. Age had taken strength from his body, but not from his presence. "Why are you here, sir?" Sergeant Miller finally asked. The old man looked around the tent, breathing in the air of military life. The boots, the dust, the hum of generators outside. "I came to visit my grandson," he said quietly. "He was stationed at this camp. I haven't seen him in years." The tent went still again. "Which unit?" Miller asked. The old man's eyes drifted toward the ground. He was 2nd Platoon. "The one that went out last month." Silence. Even the wind outside seemed to stop. 2nd Platoon had taken heavy casualties on a mission. The news had shaken everyone on base. The old man's voice remained soft, but the crack in it was impossible to ignore. "The day I heard, I wanted to be angry. I wanted to find someone to blame. But then I remembered something." He looked at the Marines one by one, as if memorizing their faces. "I remembered that all of you stand where others can't. You carry a weight that the world never sees. And my grandson, he chose to stand with you." Hayes lowered his head, guilt still burning in his chest from earlier. The old man continued. "I served 40 years. I've seen victories and losses. But the truth is, it's the people who stand beside you that matter. Rank fades. Medals collect dust. But brotherhood lives on." The Marines listened, silent, humbled. Then the old man looked at Hayes. You asked me my rank, he said with a small smile. Let me answer properly. He straightened his back as if returning to attention after decades. I was a master gunnery sergeant of the United States Marine Corps, but today, he placed a gentle hand on Hayes' shoulder again. Today, I'm just a grandfather who's proud that young men like you still carry the torch. Hayes swallowed hard, voice unsteady. Sir, I'm sorry. Truly, no apology needed, the old man said. Just honor the uniform you wear. That's all any of us can do. Miller spoke quietly. You'll always be one of us, Master Guns. The old Marine closed his eyes briefly, overwhelmed by the respect around him. When he opened them, he smiled. Semper Fi, boys, Semper Fi, the Marines echoed, loud, unified, sincere. The tent that had once been full of jokes and noise now held something different: respect, brotherhood, legacy, and for the first time in a long time, the old man felt at home.